So today, we're going to dive into some of the most profound lessons on how to live, and they come from someone who spends every single day with death. We're unpacking the wisdom of a Muslim undertaker, a man with decades of experience whose whole view on life has been shaped by the one thing we all have in common.
To really feel the weight of what he says, you have to understand the sheer scale of his experience. Get this, he has personally washed over 6,600 bodies. This isn't some high-level philosophy from a book. This is wisdom earned right at the final threshold of life, again and again and again.
And this, right here, is where he kicks things off. It's a phrase many of us have heard before, right? But he points out this huge blind spot we have. We hear it, we might even say it, but we never really let it sink in. You know? We all kind of live like we've got all the time in the world. But from where he's standing, he sees proof every single day that we don't.
All right, so the first big takeaway from his work is just how impartial death is. I mean, it's the one thing in life that is completely 100% fair. It doesn't care how much money you have, what your job title is, or how old you are. It comes for everyone.
And he has this really powerful way of explaining it. He talks about the washing table, where he prepares the bodies. That table doesn't care who you are. The richest CEO and the person with nothing are laid on the exact same table. The young and the old are washed in the exact same way. All those things we chase, status, titles, money, it all just vanishes, right there.
Okay, so this whole idea of death being the great equalizer, it leads to what is maybe his most important observation. After seeing thousands of endings, he's noticed this incredible pattern, a direct connection between the way someone lived and how they died.
It sounds so simple, right? The way you live is the way you usually die. But think about what that really means. The habits you form, the things you prioritize, the kind of person you are day in and day out, that's what shows up at the very end. It's like your life is the rehearsal for your final moments. And that really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? If your life is a story, what's that final chapter going to look like? He shares these two stories that just perfectly capture this idea.
So on one side, you've got this story of a man who was terminally ill. His one sincere wish was to die in prostration, during prayer. Even though he was allowed to pray at home, he used every last ounce of his strength to get to the mosque, and that's exactly where he died. Then on the complete other end of the spectrum, he talks about an incredibly wealthy man he buried, a real empire builder. At his funeral, his own sons, who were about to inherit everything, didn't even know how to lead the funeral prayer for their father. He passed down his business, but not his faith.
And this is such a perfect example of his next point. The people who show up for you in the end are a mirror of the life you lived. He says if you spent your time at the mosque, the people of the mosque will be there. If you spent your time somewhere else, well, that's the crowd that'll show up. Basically, the community you build in life is the one that sends you off.
So this all begs the question, right? What about our legacy? We spend our entire lives gathering things, building careers, making connections. But from his perspective, what really lasts? What do we actually take with us?
Well, he breaks it down using this classic teaching. 3 things follow you to your grave: your family, your wealth, and your deeds. But think about it. Your family, they love you, but eventually they have to turn around and go home. Your wealth, it just gets divided up and left behind. The only thing that actually goes into the grave with you and stays with you is your deed.
Okay, and this is where his advice gets super real for us today. He makes it so clear that deeds aren't just about prayers or charity. Your deeds are everything. That WhatsApp message you just forwarded, that's a deed. That meme you're about to post, yep, that's a deed too. He even tells stories about having to remove piercings from bodies, pointing out that everything you do to yourself and for yourself goes with you. Everything we do leaves a mark.
And this brings us to what might be the single most powerful tool he offers. Before you hit send, before you post that comment, before you say that thing, just stop for a second and ask yourself this question. If I were to die right after doing this, would this act be a witness for me or a witness against me? It's such a simple but powerful filter for everything we do.
Wow, so after all this heavy stuff, what are we supposed to do? What's the takeaway for us, right now, while we're still living? Well, the last part of this is all about his direct, actionable advice on how we can actually prepare. And his advice is actually pretty straightforward, but it's probably the opposite of what you'd think. He says we shouldn't run from the thought of death or be afraid of it. No, he says the best way to live a humble, grounded, and more meaningful life is to actually get closer to it.
So here's his actual to-do list for staying humble. Go visit a cemetery. Seriously. Walk around, read the names, look at the ages. You'll see people younger than you, and it forces you to ask, why am I still here? He says, learn the funeral prayer for others, because one day it's going to be prayed for you. Realize that this body you spend so much time on is just temporary. It's going back to the earth. And maybe most importantly, just swallow your pride.
And that just leaves us with this one last question, and it is a heavy one. All the fights, the arguments, the ego we carry around, it all seems so small when you put it like that, doesn't it? It's really a challenge to us all, to let go of the little things and live a life that tells a story we'd actually be proud of.